one.
All right, sorry, never mind.
Unless I've gained one in the course of the last 20 minutes I didn't know about.
So, what are your views on the first past the post system?
Well, I think that the first past the post system offers the opportunity to have real direct contact between the person that's elected and their constituents. And my worry about changing the system is you end up with someone like we have for the members of the European Parliament. We have a list system, and each MEP actually represents in the East Midlands about 5 million people. So nobody really has a direct connection with them. So I think actually the first past the post system is still, it's the easiest understood, and I think it offers that direct connection with whoever you elect.
The Conservative government in the past 5 years and in their manifesto have put a lot of emphasis on STEM subjects, and obviously here we're all very creative, and the media industry is like the 8th largest. It's grown 8 times faster than the current economy. So I was just wondering why the Conservatives are putting so much emphasis on STEM subjects when it seems like media subjects are kind of more useful.
Well, I think what we don't want is young people to write off doing science or technology or maths to a higher level. And actually what we know is we need 83,000 more engineers every year for the next 10 years. And so it's important, I think, that young people are aware of all the options that are open to them and they're not narrowing down their subject choices too early. But I think you're absolutely right to say that the creative industries is a huge part of the British economy, and we are world leaders in that. If you go down to De Montfort University, you see the gaming course that goes on down there and the opportunities offered. So that's why I think we want, a balance in both. And interestingly, what we've seen in the last 5 years is that actually we've got more students now studying things like music and art and performing arts, GCSEs. But I'm particularly passionate, obviously, as Minister for Women. What I don't want, again, is girls to think that actually STEM subjects are not for them, because often they are, particularly maths, for example. You can see the correlation between studying maths and then earnings later on in life. That's not the most important thing always, but it's about making sure that young people don't sort of cut off options too early on based on advice that leads them down to subjects that they might not otherwise have given up.
There's been a lot of talk about lowering the voting age. We just want to know what your opinion on that is.
Well, actually, I think what was really interesting was looking at the 16 and 17-year-olds who really engaged in the Scottish referendum last year. And as the Prime Minister said just before Parliament was dissolved, I think we should have a debate about it. It's not in our Conservative Party manifesto. And interestingly, when I was talking, obviously, here at Rawlins today and asked for a vote, it was probably about, 50-50 in terms of those who wanted it lowered and those who didn't. So I think probably the time in the next Parliament is to have a debate about it. And I think if there is a consensus, but I don't think it's the answer to engaging voter, having greater voter turnout. I think there's actually more fundamental issues about engaging with the electorate. But I think let's have a debate.
The Conservative government are trying to obviously bring just it to one exam at the end of 2 years. I was just wondering if you think it's going to affect the different social classes. For example, working class people might have more strains at home, so they don't have time to revise and therefore don't have enough time to revise so much for the end of 2 years exams, when maybe people who go to private school haven't got those pressures of looking after and being a primary caregiver. So I was just wondering how you think it'll affect certain different social classes in society.
Well, I think I would be completely opposed to having changes or thinking about qualifications on the basis of anything other than the student's ability. And I think that there are schools like Rawlins that give fantastic support, and I see this up and down the country, to students in terms of helping them to get the best possible qualifications that they can. And I think that all students have pressures. I don't think we should make assumptions about on the basis of where students have grown up or where they are going to school. But I do think that actually the best way of having a really high quality exam system, high standards of qualifications, is to have exams at the end of the 2 years, partly because students get time to really study the subject in depth and always thinking about the next test or the next exam. I think that's very important. They get to know the subject, the teachers get to teach it as well. And I think the important thing is to put in place support for students, all students, to make sure they get the best possible exam grades they can.
Yep. Thank you very much for coming in today for the Q&A. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.